or if we can change within ourselves so that our community, when people look at us, they will actually see a community where that prejudice and bias, has been dealt with, or at least, people are coming to grips with it, then this will attract people and people will trust us. They will trust us because we're just and we're sincere and we're honest.
No, I'm not worried at all. I rely on God, Allah.
So one thing that is going to be very, very difficult and will be an uphill battle is that when you're trying to change the system, there is so much history and so much baggage there. There's an incredible amount of baggage, and people are just so resistant because it sometimes just goes into like this visceral part of your body where certain, for example, white people will think, hey, they're coming for everything. They're coming for everything of ours. Like, this is the type of fear that some of them feel. Like, if you talk to some of them, they think, oh, they're coming for all our jobs. They're coming for all our positions. They want everything, right? That's where you get this whole Sharia law thing. Oh, they're coming to put in Sharia law. Man, we just want to pray in peace, like in our masajid, and do some basic things and just live a peaceful life. But it's like, oh no, they're going to come over and displace everything and have Sharia law. So in our attempt to be part of the system, how can we create a sense of harmony, especially for us Muslims who can set an example, who can perhaps lead the way? Because what I think sets us apart very uniquely is we have a deen that actually legislated. It's the only deen that has ever existed that legislated nations. You were able to have society function based on the core values of that deen in every single facet of society, whether it's economics, the socio-political landscape, all of these different things, military authority. So how can we set an example to show that this can be done harmoniously? Dr. Quick, I'd like to hear from you.
I think it's important for us to recognize that, after Tawheed, the oneness of God, and our relationship, to the last Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, one of the most important aspects within Islamic lifestyle is justice, and especially in leadership. And if we are to set an example and to become leaders, as the Quran says, shuhada ala nas, if we are to be witnesses on the people, we have to be just. And that means sometimes we have to actually tell the truth, even if it's against ourselves. And this does not mean that we do not stand for the truth. We have to stand for the truth. And this is not going to be enjoyable for the Europeans, because they have colonized the world. They have killed millions of people. They have done some terrible crimes. But at the same time, crimes have been done by other nations as well in the past. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most merciful. And we have to be able to show that type of justice, which means we start with ourselves. Because Islam is the perfected last revelation. But Muslims are not necessarily perfected. We have a lot of problems. And I was just talking with the Council of Imams last night, and because the Imams are all saying, like, tell us about race, tell us about racism. What's going on in America? Who's George Floyd, man? Like, what happened? So I'm trying to unpack this for the Imams, but I said, look, I'm going to tell you the truth. We don't have institutionalized racism as white supremacy because we don't have an ideology. Our Islam, defeats the white supremacy. However, we have racist behavior. It's part of racism. And we're going to have to come to grips with that. Within our societies, and I'm being straightforward, we have concepts of light and dark. Who was a pretty girl? Who was an ugly girl? What is nice here? What is bad here? Who was intelligent? Who's not intelligent? I mean, we as African-American Muslims coming into masjids, sometimes usually when we want a position, they say, okay, brother, call the adhan or do security. Like, these are the two. Don't be an imam. Don't ask to be president of the executive committee. Right? Call the adhan. In South Africa, they say Bilal Bang. This is what they call it. Bilal Bang. So this is a type of a minor form of institutionalized racism or tribalism, or we could say prejudice. It's not at the same level, but if we can solve that, or if we can change within ourselves so that our community, when people look at us, they will actually see a community where that prejudice and bias, has been dealt with, or at least, people are coming to grips with it, then this will attract people and people will trust us. They will trust us because we're just and we're sincere and we're honest. I want to give you an example of how this can affect society. I lived in South Africa for 10 years. And in Cape Town, in the Western Cape, the Cape Malays, who came mainly from Indonesia and East Africa, and they were Shafi, and they used to wear a red fez. And the Afrikaners, the Dutch Afrikaner government, who were very much into their Christianity with their institutionalized racism. If there was a court case and a man came in the court to testify and he had a red fez on, that judge would almost 100% accept his testimony because they knew that Muslims did not lie. They knew that Muslims stood for justice, even though they didn't trust us in some other ways. But when it comes to certain things, they knew that quality about us. So similarly, we have to display these qualities because that's what Islamophobia tries to break down with the stereotypes that they give about, about Muslims and Islam. They want to break down, but we have to actually be living examples of this when we go out amongst the people. And we got to fight the bias and the prejudice that's within ourselves. This is not an easy job, but we got to be honest and we have to come to grips with it.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.